Hello, guys. You're welcome to another time for us to learn biology for JAMB, Prep Station 2024. And I hope you guys have been preparing, you've been reading, you've been trying your best to make sure that you get nothing but the best in this year's JAMB. Okay, so this year at Prep Station, we'll be looking at the topics recommended by JAMB for the exam this year. And if you look at my screen, these are the topics that we have this year. We have varieties of organisms, and here we'll be looking at the living organism, talk about evolution among the different kingdoms of organisms that we have. You know, we have kingdom Monera, we have Protista, we have fungi, we have kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Then we also look at the structural and functional and behavioral adaptations of organisms. That means how the structure of some organisms help them to adapt, help them to behave in certain habitats where they found themselves. Then we also look at the forms, we look at the functions of organisms, we look at the internal structures of plants and animals, we talk about nutrition, talk about transport, talk about respiration, talk about description, we talk about reproduction, we talk about growth. Then we also have coordination and control. Then after that, we also look at ecology. We look at the factors affecting the distribution of organisms. Now, all of these topics are majorly what you would have done in SS1 and SS2. So they are nothing big. So I want you to stay with me. Now, we also look at symbiosis of plants and animals. We look at the natural habitat. We look at local biome. We look at ecology of population. We talk about soil, human and environment, heredity and variation. Then we look at variation in population, how organisms vary. You know that even if you have twins now, they are still not going to be the same thing exactly. They may look alike physically, that is phenotypically, but genotypically, they are never the same thing. Okay, so we look at theories of evolution. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to treat some of these topics here today. Cannot go through everything, and there are some of the topics here that you will be able to see if you check Prep Station 2023. Some of what we did last year are also here. So I would advise that you take time, go through what we did last year, then you come to this year now to get maybe some of those things that were not there or that are not there last year. I beg your pardon. Okay, then so let's start. We look at evolution. Okay, so what is evolution? It's a process whereby living organisms develop from their early forms to a more recent form. Now let's look at it, let's break it down. Evolution is from the word evolve. That means to change, to arrive. Like you were not this before, you weren't this good, but now you're not just good, you're not just better, but you are the best. You have evolved. Something that was small has evolved to become a complex organism. Okay, now it happens in our life too. When I was giving birth to, I wasn't this big, but I started becoming bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, and look at where we are now. Let's keep that. Let's look at organism now. Let's look at human being. Now, the point is this: evolution is not all about birth. It's talking about the form of organism, like in many years now, many years in the past, and the form of the organism that we have now. That's evolution. Okay, now it is the gradual development of complex forms. I want you to stay with me. Gradual development of complex forms. Then it talks about how organism that was not complex, right, evolved to become complex. There is a theory in biology, we call it the endosymbiotic theory, where organism that was simple is now complex. Yes, that's evolution. That's evolution. The only thing that can make something simple become complex is evolution. That means over time, it has evolved. Over time, it has changed. Gradually, it has become a very complex organism. Okay, now, I said it is the gradual development of complex organisms from their ancestral types over a period of time. Now, there's something that I like telling my students. I like telling them that human beings, all of us, all living organisms are not just human beings alone. All of us are cousins. Yes, we are cousins. And what do I mean by that? Because we all started from a common ancestor. If you look at what is on your screen here, it says from their ancestral types over a period of time. That means initially all of us used to have the same ancestor. But look at it now. There's this segregation. Remember that we have what we call specialization in biology, where organisms become specialized. Take for instance, now you're going to a bank to collect your ATM card. If you get to the bank, they will have a stack of ATM cards now, unspecialized because there is no account on them. Then what would they do once you get there? They will now put your account number, put your details, put it on the card. That means the card that was just an ordinary card has become specialized. Are you getting my point? It has become specialized because something has been put into it. So that is what happened here too. All of us used to be the same thing, but evolution took place and it's still taking place. Yes, it's still taking place. And after so many years now, I'm not talking about 2, I'm not talking about 5, I'm not talking about 10, I'm not even talking about 20 years, I'm talking about thousands of years. Now we have evolved and look at where we are now. That is why you can say that, I am a human being, I have goat, we have dog. All of those things do not belong to the same kingdom. We started from the same origin. Okay, so let's move on. Now, it facilitates, I'm talking about evolution now, it facilitates change in diversity of forms. It facilitates change in diversity. Look at the word diversity. It means that what? The difference that we are not the same thing. So evolution facilitates change in diversity. There are some things that drive evolution. One of them is your ability to adapt. I may not go into that now. I don't want to jump, but we'll get there. So it facilitates change diversity of forms, change in structures and functions among living organisms. We have goats, we have some of them live, some animals live in water, and some of us are living on land. Now, they have features that help them to survive inside the water. And look at me now. I have features that help me to survive where I am. You take human being inside the water, and I mean, he won't even be able to survive because he doesn't have an adaptive feature to survive there. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. So there are 3 theories of evolution, and I want you to pay attention to this, and also I want you to go back and read. Make sure you get to know all of this theory of evolution. All of them. Okay, so what are the theories of evolution? We have the Lamarck's theory, we have the Darwin's theory, and we have the organic theory. I'll take it again. You may call it Lord, L-O-D, Lord, or old, O-L-D. The O is the organic, the L is the theory propounded by Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. Then the D here is what? Is the one by this famous guy, Charles Darwin. Yes. Okay, so you may use this to help you remember the theories of evolution. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so let's start with the Lamarck's theory. What did he say about evolution? Now, he proposed the origin of new species to be by the inheritance of acquired characters developed during life by use and disuse. Pay attention to this. There are 2 key statements in the theory propounded by Lamarck. Now, what are the statements? The first one is the inheritance of acquired characters, and the second one is use and disuse. Use and disuse. Now, what exactly does it mean? Now, he said that new species now are developed or are formed by the inheritance of acquired character. Now, let's take for instance, all the organisms are in the same place, right? All of them are in the same place. Now, you have provided the same condition for all of them, but some organisms will definitely survive while some will not be able to survive. Are you getting my point now? The organisms that are able to survive, maybe they have been able to build now, to develop a kind of attitude that will help them to survive there. Take for instance, now in the afternoon, maybe the weather is not quite favorable, everywhere is hot, you see people doing like their hand like this, right? You see people using paper for hand fan, you see people using different kind of materials to fan themselves because the condition is not favorable. So they are trying to make themselves, they are trying to survive in that kind of environment. Are you getting that now? Now, let's now look at a situation whereby the ant that the person keeps using to fan himself or herself, and the person keeps doing that for like 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, what do you think will happen? Now, the hand will now become adapted. Now, it is possible that this finger now can now become webbed so that it will be able to serve that function very well. That is acquired characters because of the need. There was a need, and there's a reason for the organs to be able to meet up, to be able to meet up. So he developed that attitude. That is what Jim Baptist Lamarck was trying to talk about here. Then, what do I mean by use and disuse? If a body part were used, it got stronger, rather, it got stronger. Now, if the body part like is not used now, you're not using it, then it become deteriorated. Now let's look at this guy. Now it means that initially this giraffe now, they were not having the long neck. They were not having the long neck. Please stay with me. They were not having the long neck. And because there was need for the giraffe to keep eating food, so he began to stretch his neck. He began to stretch his neck. He began to stretch his neck. And look at what I said. I said if a body part were used, it got stronger. So because the giraffe is always using the neck, it's always stretching the neck. Now look at what we have now. Now we have giraffe with what? With long neck. Now let's look at it. Maybe 2,000 years ago now, the species of giraffe that we had then, they were not having this kind of long neck. That is the law of use and disuse. Now, let's talk about human being. Even in our body, I'm sure all of you must have heard of appendicitis. Appendix is an organ in the body that up till today, we still don't know the function. We don't know the role that it performs in the body. Appendix. It only become popular when it starts getting inflamed now. Appendicitis, the site is there means inflamed. That means it's getting, it's swelling up, right? Okay, so appendix now, it's not useful for the modern man. I'm not saying that it wasn't useful then. It was use and disuse. It wasn't. I'm not saying that it wasn't useful. It was. People were actually using. Maybe there was a kind of food that they were eating then, and they were using appendix to digest it. But because now we have evolved, we don't eat that kind of food again. We don't need appendix again. So the organ is redundant. It's not doing anything again. That's the law of use and disuse. Okay, so let's move on. Deficiencies of Lamarck theory. What are the shortcomings of Lamarck theory? Okay, now, experiences have proved that acquired traits or modifications are not inheritable. What are we talking about? Like, if you have been able to acquire a certain trait now, or you have been able to become modified so that you'll be able to adapt yourself to a particular environment where you've seen yourself, that cannot be, you can't pass it down. Like, it's not something that can be inherited. You can't pass it down. So that is the deficiency of Lamarck theory. Please don't forget what I told you. Lamarck theory propounded what? Inheritance of acquired characteristics and also use and disuse. So if something is not being used, it becomes redundant because it loses the strength because you're not using it. Then if something is being used continually, it gets strengthened so that it becomes what? Stronger. I want you to take time now and think of what you think what you think might be the new trait that human being can acquire, or that the new man now can have, let's say in the next 10 years, in the next 10,000 years, in the next 2,000 years. What is that new trait that you think a new man will have that we don't have now? Okay, think of that as we move to the next theory, and that is the Darwin's theory. The Darwin's theory. I'm sure that all biology students will be quite familiar with this young man. Yes. Okay, I didn't get to meet him, even though I called him young. Okay, don't mind me. Then Darwin, in association with his good friend Alfred Wallace, proposed the theory of evolution by natural selection. Please cool down. One important thing that you need to know about this Darwin's theory is what I called natural selection. That means naturally selected. The selection is not done by man. The selection is done by nature. The selection is done is done naturally. Take for instance, you carry a man and you throw the man inside the water. Now what happened? naturally the man will not survive because the environment has not supported the growth of the man. I hope you're following me. The environment has not supported the growth of the man. Let me give you an instance. I used to have this very young boy with, I think he has like few fishes, no, just one fish in his aquarium in the house. He's so much like this fish that he always liked to play with the fish. Then one day, you know what he did? He decided to bring out the fish from the water and he was rocking it. He was playing with the fish. He was rocking it, he was playing with the fish, and the fish died. And the guy started crying. Now, what happened to the fish? Because the environment does not support the growth of that fish, it can't survive outside water. We do not, the fish doesn't have the apparatus to survive because it does not have lung to respire. And human beings too, we don't have what? We don't have gills to respire inside water. So there are some things that have been supported naturally. Now, pay attention. Those things will definitely survive in that environment. And how do you know that they are surviving in the environment? Number one, they are able to reproduce more. They are able to reproduce more. So if you see an environment of people, or you get to an environment of living organisms, and you notice that that a particular population is more prominent than other population, just know that the environment has supported that species more than others. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, now the four propositions underlying Darwin's theories of evolution are: number one, more individuals are produced than can survive. More individuals are produced than can survive. That suggests why some are naturally selected, because those are not selected naturally will definitely not make it. They will die. Okay. Then there is therefore a struggle for existence. There is struggle for existence. We call it what? Survival of the fittest. There is struggle for existence. I'm sure you must have seen it on the TV, where you see a particular predator now running after its prey, right? Yes, they are struggling for existence. It happens everywhere. It happens in school. You see some people saying, no, I want to get more marks. I want to be the valedictorian. See, everything that happens in our real life, you can relate it to biology. You can relate it to biology. So there is a struggle for existence, because some will definitely die. And those that will die will be those that have not been selected, or those that are not fit enough to survive. Then individuals within a species, they show variation. They show variation. Now, please don't get confused at this stage that you are now the writing jam. I'm sure that this should not be a new thing to you. Individual within a species, they are of the same species, right? But yet they still show variation. What does it mean? They are not the same thing. They are not the same thing. Even if you give birth to twins today, they are still not the same thing. Are you getting my point now? Yes, genetically, they cannot be the same. Phenotypically, they can be the same. They can look alike. It may even be so difficult for their mother to say that this is Jane and this is maybe Janet or whatever. Are you getting it now? But they cannot be the same thing. They can't be the same thing. We get there, we talk about what we call chiasmata crossing over in meiosis. We'll keep that now. Maybe when we get there, we'll talk about it. Then offspring tend to inherit their parent characters. You see that the children look so much like the father. Are you with me now? Okay, we'll continue from this in the next episode. Thank you.